Tonight, Israel's escalation and strikes targeting Hamas leaders in Doha draws international pushback. The rebuke from a major ally.
We want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down today.
And what Qatar is revealing about its role in mediating a path for peace.
It's not a safe environment for the folks who are living there.
Also, a Canadian city's ultimatum, the rare step it's taking to confront homeless encampments. Plus, a dialed-up debate.
Conversations are now lost because people are doing this instead.
The generational hang-ups over the best breakup etiquette.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. Canada is adding its voice to a chorus of global condemnation tonight after Israel launched airstrikes in Qatar, a key mediator in the war in Gaza. Cell phone video shows people fleeing in the normally peaceful capital of Doha. Prime Minister Mark Carney writing that such attacks pose a grave risk of escalating conflict throughout the region and directly imperil efforts to advance peace and security. Israel's strike targeting senior Hamas leadership in Qatar marks a significant escalation in a region already on edge. CTV's Adrian Gobriel with what's next.
As smoke paints the Doha sky black, the path towards a ceasefire becomes clouded with uncertainty. The deadly daylight air assault targeting this compound in Qatar's capital city, where ceasefire negotiations have been taking place. Hamas says 5 of its members were assassinated in the attack, though exiled chief Halil El-Hayya, seen here, who was believed to be a prime target, survived, according to Hamas.
These are the same terrorists who planned, terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
As Israel's prime minister presented his case, Qatar's foreign minister announced that Gaza peace talks are now on hold.
The current talks, I don't think there is something valid right now, while after we seeing such an attack.
On social media, Prime Minister Mark Carney called Israel's airstrikes an intolerable expansion of violence and an affront to Qatar's sovereignty. Back in Israel, the families of hostages believe today's airstrikes may have sealed the fate of their loved ones.
Crushes the hopes of all of the families. It's just, it's devastating.
There were several days ago warnings from the Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff that Israel was going to start targeting Hamas's leaders no matter where in the world they might be.
Israel's air assault in Doha comes after Hamas's armed wing claimed responsibility for shooting and killing 6 people on Monday at a bus stop in Jerusalem. This latest expansion to the conflict comes as Israel issued an evacuation order for residents in Gaza City, with the IDF sharing its intentions of a renewed operation.
There's no place for them to go. What Israel is doing is just demolishing a city.
The military maneuver in Doha reportedly involved 15 Israeli fighter jets firing 10 separate airstrikes on one single target. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Israel's attacks prompted rare public criticism from the United States, a key ally. The White House revealing today it had no heads up about this strike from Israel. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin on what else Donald Trump is saying.
From hopeful,
I think we're going to have a deal on Gaza very soon,
to clearly frustrated, the U.S. president on Truth Social said by the time he was told of Israel's strike on Doha, the bombing had already begun. Israel's decision to attack, said Trump in a statement, was a decision made by Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was not a decision made by me.
I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back.
Washington was leading a new push for peace in Gaza. The Trump administration said Israel notified them of the attack too late. The president, distancing himself, seemed to scold Israel.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
Qatar, a key mediator in the Gaza ceasefire talks, rolling out the red carpet for Donald Trump last May, and home to the largest U.S. military base in the region. Trump said he feels very badly about the attack and called the emir and prime minister.
He assured them that such a thing will not happen again on their soil.
The attack leaves the U.S. ceasefire plan and hostage release in limbo, complicating relations between Washington and Doha.
As an analyst and someone who has conducted these negotiations, I do not see the way forward. I think the talks are completely, I don't want to say dead, but I don't see the talks going anywhere.
Tonight, Qatar's prime minister says the landscape of the ceasefire talks has changed, saying he doesn't think there's anything valid right now after Israel's attack. Omar?
All right, Joy, thanks. And the sports world is feeling the ripple effect of Israel's war with Hamas. Later in the show, why the conflict is keeping fans out of a major tennis tournament in Nova Scotia. And we are hearing tonight from the heartbroken family of one of the Canadians killed in the funicular crash last week in Lisbon.
It was very scary. It's crashed. I didn't see him. I called him. I was calling Astis and he didn't answer.
This is the last photo Hind Ingernon took with her husband on their vacation. 42-year-old Aziz Ben Haref is a Canadian citizen originally from Morocco who lived in Ottawa. His wife, who is a permanent resident, fractured her hip and her shoulder. Family back in Ottawa believe Canadian officials could have done more to help.
We did not get any help from them. It was really frustrating because for the whole night we tried to find solutions from our own.
The wife remains in hospital, and once cleared to fly, she'll go to Morocco, where her husband will be buried. Ottawa is issuing a travel warning for Canadians in Nepal following widespread anti-government protests. The country's prime minister is stepping down today as anti-corruption protesters defied a curfew, clashed with police, and set fire to the Parliament building. At least 19 people have died in the unrest, sparked by a government ban on social media and a lack of economic opportunities for young people. The Gen Z demonstrators have also called out so-called Nepo kids, the children of wealthy figures who flaunt luxurious lifestyles. A Canadian traveler was among the protesters and describes the chaotic scene.
Yeah, we got tear gassed for a couple of hours, and they were like firing at us as well, just kind of doing anything to keep us back.
Canadians in Nepal are being warned to exercise a high degree of caution and avoid government buildings and demonstrations. The Prime Minister and his Liberal caucus are gathered in Edmonton this week, navigating how to map out their priorities ahead of Parliament's return exactly 1 week from today. CTV's Abigail Beeman on which Liberal promises may be reconsidered.
Hoping MPs inside will hear them, a group of healthcare advocates wants to hold Mark Carney to the Trudeau government's promises on pharmacare. Alberta is not one of the 3 provinces and 1 territory that have a deal, which impacts Crystal Sutherland's mother, living with type 1 diabetes.
It would be a huge financial burden off of somebody who is on a budget.
But this isn't the Trudeau government. The health minister's office tells CTV News the economic context has changed since pharmacare was launched, and they're reviewing the existing agreements before any next steps.
They're making excuses, using weasel words like protecting agreements rather than actually implementing the full law. We don't think that's acceptable.
Pharmacare is only one potential departure. The government has yet to be clear about previous climate targets, with some MPs launching their own environmental caucus.
Well, I mean, it's normal for MPs to want to get together to talk about certain things that they care about.
Former Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault said he'd attend the new caucus, but wouldn't share his thoughts on potentially not meeting targets. A senior government source tells CTV News the wider event is about making sure MPs understand the government's plans and taking questions about some of the, quote, hesitancies from caucus, which may be a gentle word with the threat of cuts looming in many departments.
I don't know about cuts or anything. I mean, there's all speculation about all kinds of things, but look, caucus cohesion is important all the time.
After 2 days of smaller breakout sessions, the full caucus, including the Prime Minister, meets tomorrow morning, and Wednesday afternoon, Carney sits down with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Edmonton.
The impact of Washington's trade actions will loom large at that meeting, and today we learned the U.S. Supreme Court will now determine the legality of Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs in November. The tariffs will remain in place in the meantime. The court has fast-tracked a hearing after 2 lower courts found most of the tariffs on countries were illegally imposed. This case does not include Donald Trump's levies on foreign steel and aluminum. The mayor of a northern Ontario city has taken the rare step of declaring a state of emergency over the growing number of encampments. There are currently about 20 of them in Barrie, where around 600 people currently live. Here's CTV's Heather Wright on what the declaration means.
From his front steps, Michael Gervais has a clear view of Barrie's encampment challenges. More than a dozen tents dot the sidewalk, a number he says is growing.
The drug use is rampant out here. It's nonstop. It's all day.
Gervais says in addition to drug use, violence is escalating as well. Recently, 2 pieces of metal rebar were thrown at his house.
One hit close to the door, and the other one came to through the window.
Today, Barrie's mayor declared a state of emergency over homeless encampments, citing a recent double homicide, fires, overdoses, and excessive E. coli levels in the city's waterways.
It's not a safe environment for the folks who are living there. It's not a safe environment for those who are around them, who are walking by them.
The emergency declaration covers all city-run public spaces, including parks, sidewalks, and trails, and will allow staff to more aggressively enforce encampment protocols, including dismantling sites considered the most high risk. The city has also earmarked more resources for addiction, mental health, and housing. But Mayor Alex Nuttall adds if people don't accept help and get off the street, they won't be allowed to stay in the city.
The folks who've been offered help and offered support, if they don't take it, that's their choice. That's not the people of Barrie's choice.
Encampments have been growing in cities across the country, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic. A lack of affordable housing, limited support services, and nowhere else to go have pushed many to live in tents. At Milligan's Pond in Barrie, a site that was cleared last month, this man has returned.
Look where we live, man. Like straight up.
And says he feels he has no other choice.
Advocates say simply removing encampments doesn't address the root issue, simply moves the problem elsewhere. Barrie has not said when they will begin removing these sites, but say it will likely take months. Heather Wright, CTV News, Barrie, Ontario.
Well, housing continues to be an issue right across the country, but in some areas where new home builds are desperately needed, projects are being paused. CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Couture explains why.
Home building in Toronto fell to its lowest level on a per capita basis since 1996. According to a report from Canada's National Housing Agency, Vancouver also saw a drop in housing starts compared to the first half of last year.
There's this slowdown in activity that will potentially recreate kind of those issues in terms of pressures on prices, pressures on rents.
The CMHC says pre-construction sales are slumping by double digits in Toronto, which is forcing developers to delay project launches in a city that is in desperate need of new homes.
The cost of construction has gone up drastically, and the number of people that are out there looking to buy has gone down again drastically as well.
A near record pace of building in Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Ottawa, and Halifax helped offset the sagging construction in Vancouver and Toronto. Now, developers believe cities could see even more growth without municipal development charges, which help pay for roads and sewers. Red tape is another complaint, which Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre would reduce with a suite of other measures.
Get rid of the sales tax, cut the development charges in half, speed up the permits, zero tax on reinvested gains.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Housing Minister Gregor Robertson said the government is going to build homes at a pace and scale not seen in generations, pointing to a yet-to-be-announced program called Build Canada Homes. However, there are still no details on the measures the Liberals intend to implement. Omar.
Mike Couture in Ottawa tonight. Mike, thanks. Coming up, international tensions transform a major sports event.
They're going to have to modify those plans. That's disappointing.
Why fans are being locked out of a tennis tournament on the East Coast. Plus, how vandals are taking down speed cameras in Ontario and why the Premier doesn't want them going back up. More than 100,000 people have been evacuated from central Pakistan as floods submerge communities and wash away farmland. Some survivors told local media that many people are still stranded on rooftops and in trees in sweltering conditions. The government has deployed hundreds of boats and thousands of rescuers to hard-hit districts. Back here at home, some of the world's top tennis players will play to empty seats this weekend in Halifax. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth on why Tennis Canada has barred spectators from the Davis Cup between Canada and Israel.
The Canada and Israel Davis Cup match will be played in a closed venue in Halifax this weekend with no fans after escalating safety concerns were raised by local authorities and national security agencies. The move comes after more than 400 Canadian athletes and academics urged Tennis Canada in a letter to cancel the event over Israel's actions in Gaza and the West Bank. Tennis Canada's CEO said, "We were forced to conclude that playing behind closed doors was the only way to both safeguard those involved and preserve the event itself." Now, tennis fans who bought tickets for the event are out of luck.
Watching tennis live is always such a fun thing, so I was planning to go. Everything going on with Israel, but you know, really just you would want to see that level of tennis.
They're going to have to modify those plans. That's disappointing. And I'll go back to the point that Halifax works really hard to be a welcoming, inclusive city.
The Davis Cup event is taking place here at Scotiabank Centre in downtown Halifax. The CEO of the Centre for Israel and Jewish Affairs said it's unacceptable for hate, harassment, and intimidation to make it unsafe to support athletes in our country. CTV crime analyst Steve Ryan says a move like this would only be made based on legitimate threats.
There has to have been some credible information that both the RCMP, the local police, and Tennis Canada shared together, and the decision was made.
Ryan also says it's a clear example of the steps that organizations like Tennis Canada are willing to take to keep athletes and fans safe. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Still ahead, what Canadians are saying about what it will take to boost sales and get them behind the wheel of an electric vehicle. Police in Toronto are trying to track down the vandals who damaged more than a dozen speed cameras, even as Ontario's premier is calling for all of them to be taken down. 16 cameras were damaged across Toronto overnight, and it's not the first time they've been targeted. One in Toronto's West End has been cut down 7 times since being installed. The city's mayor is calling for the vandals to be caught, citing public safety.
They're setting up in community and school zones. Kids are going back to school this week. For heaven's sake, stop tampering with public safety device, which is what this speed camera is about.
But Ontario's premier definitely isn't on the same page and wants them gone right across the province.
It's nothing but a tax grab. So, you know something? Hopefully the cities will get rid of them, like Mayor Del Duca did in Vaughan, or I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly.
A new snapshot shows more Canadians are hitting the brakes on the idea of buying EVs, but there are certain factors that could have them reconsider. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin explains what they are.
If Canadians were in the driver's seat, it seems Chinese-made EVs could have an easier road into the local market, at least according to a Nanos survey. It found 6 in 10 Canadians support removing 100% tax on all Chinese-made electric vehicles. This in hopes China may remove tariffs against Canadian crops like canola.
These jobs are not easy.
The agriculture minister said today the tariffs are under review, but that any decision would take a look at the impacts on other sectors.
We'll see where that leads, but the discussions are ongoing and we're in a very fragile position.
Maurice Hébert is among drivers wanting to open up the market to China, though he is still far from going electric.
They're very, very upgraded.
But still, would you buy one of the Chinese?
No, we got the same problem, the battery.
New numbers show EV sales dropped 39% since last year, and plug-in hybrids 2%.
It's going to be a more efficient transition if we open up the market so that anyone who can provide quality electric vehicles that our consumers choose to buy, there will be only that much more choice for consumers.
Without tariffs, but also without adding the costs of safety certification and shipping, the price tag for a Chinese-made Seagull by BYD, now the world's largest EV manufacturer, is around $13,800. Some in Canada's industry say the low cost could come at a high price.
Certainly, running around with a blind spot isn't good.
but also giving away your market because of pressure, because EV enthusiasts would like to see these Chinese vehicles. Well, the enthusiasts don't employ anybody.
Ottawa has said that Canadian consumers deserve cheaper EVs, but some manufacturers say scrapping tariffs isn't the way to go. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
Still ahead, the generational divide on breakups. How a growing number of young Canadians is disconnecting from long-term relationships in this digital age. And why? There used to be a time when a relationship ran its course. A face-to-face conversation was the only acceptable way to part ways. But there's a shift. And if you ask younger people, it's not something to get too hung up on. CTV's Andrew Johnson explains.
Canadians, both young and old, can be guilty of it, spending a lot of time with their head buried in their phone.
Conversations are now lost because people are doing this instead.
But a new online poll of 1,000 people is defining a difference in what those growing up with this technology and those adopting it later in life think is appropriate. Take ending a relationship. If we know this is the wrong way...
Berger broke up with me on a Post-it.
On a Post-it?
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I can't. Don't hate me.
It may be somewhat concerning 29% of Canadians aged 18 to 34, so Gen Z and millennials, prefer to break up with someone over the phone, a text, email, or on an app, compared to just 14% of people aged 55 plus.
Those were the two biggest surprises of the survey, just how much the younger generation, people aged 18 to 34, are turning to online tools for everything, for breaking up with people, for quitting a job.
When it comes to making phone calls, another divide. 58% of the younger crowd report having to phone someone they don't know makes them anxious. Just 35% of the eldest cohort in the survey feels the same way.
Does that make you anxious to phone someone you don't know?
Yeah, I literally avoid doing that.
I got no problem making a phone call, especially if I'm trying to get something done.
How about ordering food? 59% of 18 to 34s use an app, so do 51% of those aged 35 to 54. But for those born in 1970 or earlier, only 32%, with the majority still loyal to a good old-fashioned phone call or going in person.
There's that element of discussing something with another human being. The over 55 wants to have a detailed discussion about the topics of their pizza.
One expert calls it the great oxymoron of our time.
Despite the fact that this technology is remarkably able to connect us, to bring us together, at the same time, it is also disconnecting us. It's isolating us.
And leaving us walking around like this. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And that's a snapshot of this Tuesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.